Hey guys, so in this video I'll be going over why you should avoid increasing your minimum order quantities on Amazon Vendor Central. So for those of you who are new here, my name is Benjamin Bolshinsky. I used to work at Amazon in the vendor management team for almost 3 years, and now I run a company called Vendor Launch where we work with Amazon vendors to increase their purchase orders. So the first thing you have to understand is Amazon's automatic ordering system and how it works. So Amazon purchase orders are driven by customer demand. It's like 95% of the logic behind the POs you receive. It's driven by customer demand. There are some other factors like profitability of products, but for the most part, it's purely a customer demand driven ordering model. In particular, Amazon use what's called a just-in-time ordering model. So as a retailer, what this means is they typically only order the amount of inventory that they need to sell to consumers. So they try and avoid ordering any excess inventory, which is a great business model because they don't, it minimizes their risk. They don't sit on any more inventory than they have to. They kind of put that risk on the supplier. But what this means is, I would say on average, generalizing here, they will hold roughly 4 weeks stock on hand at any given time in their fulfillment center. Again, depends by product category. There are variances, of course, but to simplify things, let's just say on average they hold approximately 4 weeks stock on hand in their fulfillment center. So the amount you sell every month, pretty much, that's how much they hold at any given time in their fulfillment center. Which, by the way, is a lot less than other retailers. So if you're currently selling to other retailers, Woolworths, Coles, Walmart, they typically might hold more. But Amazon, they typically hold a bit less. So roughly 4 weeks stock on hand, 4 weeks cover. So let's go over an example of different MOQs and how it affects your sales and the purchase orders you receive. So on this example, I'm assuming we're selling 10 units per week of your product, like ballpark average. So 10 units per week. So this first row, this is where we place a minimum order quantity of 1. So effectively there's no MOQ, right? We've got an MOQ of 1 for your product. You sell this customer demand is 10 units per week, and that means you've got 1/10 weeks of cover. So if Amazon order at the MOQ, which is 1 unit, then they'll have 1/10 weeks of cover. Remember, ballpark 4 weeks of cover they typically hold in their fulfillment center. So the actual Amazon POs you receive, look, this will vary, but again, you'll probably get more frequent POs. And this is, for Amazon, this is kind of their best case scenario because they can choose how much they order, right? But you might get more frequent POs, and the actual PO amount might be 40 if they don't have any stock. If they've got 3 weeks of cover, they might place an order of just 10 units. If they sometimes they might not order anything if they've already got that kind of 4 week 40 units in a fulfillment center. So in this particular example, there's really no detrimental impact on your POs for the MOQ because, well, there is no MOQ. And then so let's go to example 2. So say now you've put in, same product, you've put an MOQ of 10. So Amazon can order minimum 10 units at a time in their purchase orders. And there's still 10 units per week in customer demand. So what this means is if Amazon places a PO at the MOQ of 10, they will then have 1 week's worth of cover, right? 10 units per week, 1 week's of cover. So in this example, what's the Amazon's actual purchase orders that you receive? Well, it'll be anywhere from 10, the MOQ, to around 40, depending on how much inventory they already have in their fulfillment center. Again, in this second example, there's no real kind of detriment. I would still think it's okay. There's no real detriment to your sales in having this MOQ of 10. Then we go to example number 3. This is where same product, 10 units per week of customer demand, but now you've got an MOQ of 40 units, and if you're selling 10 units per week, that's 4 weeks worth of cover. So if Amazon were to order the product, minimum would be 40 units, which is 4 weeks worth of cover. Again, actual Amazon PO, you probably just get the MOQ POs. They might come a bit less frequently than these two examples, but for the most part, it's still okay because they'll still order the product because, you know, it's 1 month worth of cover, 40 units. Now, if we go to this example, this is where things start to get interesting. This is really where you see the disadvantages of having a higher MOQ. And so a lot of brands might have pallet MOQ levels, you know, where they only want to ship pallets to Amazon. And so this is really where you start running into some issues. And for example, we've got an MOQ of 200 in this case, right? Now keep in mind, this is the exact same product. We're still only selling 10 units per week. Now because we've got 200 as the MOQ, if Amazon were to order this product, they'll be sitting on 20 weeks of cover, right? 200 divided by 10, 20 weeks of cover. And this is a major issue because, as I mentioned, Amazon they only like to have 4 weeks of cover, right? And so think about Amazon's ordering logic. If they were to order this product at the MOQ, they'll have 25 months worth of stock on hand. And so the question becomes, does it make sense to them to order it? And in most cases, it might not. Now 200 they might still sometimes order it, but say for example it's 2,000, or you know, the higher it is, this is the point, the higher the MOQ in this example, the less likely Amazon are to actually order the product, right? Because it's too risky for them. So like 20 weeks of cover is a lot, right? Are they going to sell through all that? Who knows? And then, so what you might have happen in this scenario is Amazon's ordering system, and again, this all happens automatically. They might then not decide to not order the product at all. And this is for new products, this happens very frequently. So the point of this example that I provide is the higher the MOQ, the less likely that Amazon will place an order for your product because the risk increases. The risk that they will not sell through, or the risk that the inventory just sits in their warehouse for months and takes space away from other products increases. So the higher the MOQ, the less likely or the less flexible their POs can be. So to summarize, higher MOQs lead to Amazon not placing any purchase orders for new products, similar to this example. Well, I guess in this example, it's not a new product. But if it's a new product, then it's even less likely that they'll order it at the higher MOQ. And then for existing products where there's some existing sales demand, Amazon will place fewer POs. Fewer POs means you'll lead to higher out of stocks, right? Because there'll be more out of stocks because the POs come less frequently. So this is for existing products. And so ultimately, in either, whichever of these it occurs, basically you're going to have higher out of stocks and fewer sales the higher the MOQ, right? Because there's just more risk for Amazon's ordering system. And this last example is a very interesting, a very important point. So say, for example, you do get past this MOQ level. So back to our example, say your business is at this level here, you've got a high MOQ, and say, for example, you do get Amazon to order this product, whether it's through a born to run order, whether it's through a manual order your vendor manager makes. Say you do get Amazon to order the product, then what's going to happen is it's just going to lead to higher returns. Because again, the system will more likely than not just return the product because it's just in excess of what they need. So that's kind of the 4 scenarios here. Either you get fewer POs, if any, at the higher MOQ, which leads to higher out of stocks and fewer sales, or if you do get manage to get Amazon to place some POs, then it will either lead to higher product returns, or even like sometimes Amazon will discount the product, it will erode your margin, and so it will just lead to a bit of a mess. So all this to say is, if you want to grow your Amazon business, you're going to have to take a bit more risk. And that risk is in the form of lower MOQs, especially for new products or products that are, slowly increasing in their sales velocity, particularly at the start. Hopefully that helps. If you want to book a call with my team or myself to provide some bespoke, tailored consulting specifically for your business, whether you should, for your individual use case, increase your MOQs, then book a call using the link in the description. Otherwise, hope you have a great day and talk soon. Bye.